Welcome to this week's episode of That Thom Clancy Show. You may have guessed from the title of the stream that kind of our big thing this week is what is the best video game ending of all time. That's not something that we are going to just jump right into. That's kind of a big conversation that I would like to have a little bit later in the show, preferably with some input from you guys. Sorry for the late start. And I just realized I also forgot to go ahead and tweet that I'm starting the show. So give me just a moment here. Hope you guys have been having a wonderful day. Mine's been a little weird. Don't mind me, just tweeting. Just tweeting my life away. That's not accurate at all. There we go. Whew, there we go. Everything is hunky-dory, meant to be the way it's supposed to be. Awesome. So, let's try that again one more time, hopefully with a bit more feeling and a little bit less stumbling over the words. Welcome to That Thom Clancy Show. This week, we're going to be talking about some of the best video game endings of all time and maybe even trying to come up with a definitive answer as to which one is the best of all time. That said, if we don't come up with whatever the best one is, it'll be okay. It'll be okay, guys. Everybody's going to have their own idea of what the best ending of all time is. And not everybody's going to be the same. And just because my idea is different than your idea doesn't mean your idea is worth any less than mine. I mean, yeah, nope, not even going to joke about that. There is just no real good joke for that sort of thing. Sorry, just placing my virtual monitor in line with my real monitor. And yeah, so let's see. What have I been up to this week? Not too much, really. Let's see. Can I do that? No, I can't do that, unfortunately. Um, Finished reading a really good book. Finished playing a really good game. Um, Other than that, just doing same old kind of things here in the wonderful world of Wisconsin, Milwaukee to be specific. That said, don't at me, bro. Don't come find me. That'd just be weird. So, yeah, the really good game that I played was Jedi Fallen Order. Yes, I know. It came out several months ago, but it was recently on sale on Steam, and that's why I finally got around to picking it up. That said, I would have gladly paid full price for it. It's a very solid game. If not one of the better ones that I've played in recent memory, if only because we really got this very good sense of what Star Wars out of the hands of George Lucas really can be. That's not like George Lucas Star Wars is very good. Feelings on the prequel being what the prequel trilogy being what they are. But it's always nice to see the original Infinity Ward get their hands on a video game campaign again. They craft some of the best in the industry. It's just the truth. The original Call of Duty, Call of Duty 2, Modern Warfare, Titanfall 2, which I have gone on the record as saying that I think is the best shooter campaign of all time. And I stand by it. Because that game is excellent. And if you haven't played it, you absolutely should. But we're not talking about Titanfall 2. We're talking Jedi Fallen Order. I personally feel that it blended all of the things that I personally enjoy about Star Wars into a very interesting, complete game by also taking a bunch of things from other games that I very much enjoy and bringing those together. One of my favorite things about it is that it feels almost like a Dark Souls light, where it has a level of complexity to the combat that you don't expect to see from that style of game, but it's forgiving and it has a difficulty slider. Difficulty sliders, I believe I said last week on the show, are one of the greatest inventions that game developers have ever given players. And yeah, I played on normal, so I'm not going to apologize for not being as hardcore as other people. Truth be told, I don't really care. I don't play games specifically for a crazy challenge, with the exception of a couple of games that I do play for a crazy challenge. because especially a game like, say, Star Wars, I play because I want to take part in Star Wars. I want to feel like the Jedi, the smuggler, the ace pilot, the evil emperor sometimes even. My first playthrough of Knights of the Old Republic, I totally went full and complete Sith. I regretted it immediately and started the game over and started a light side playthrough. But that's very much what this game what this game gave me. It gave me that wonderful feeling of Star Wars. And I mean, it even kind of ended in this Star Warsian kind of way where you very much have your Luke Skywalker. And hey, sorry guys, I have to make this bigger so it's easier to read. Oh man, that is so easy to read now. So, so hey, Gav Macca. I think that's what it says. Sorry if I said that horribly wrong. Welcome to the show. Just going on a bit of a review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which, in all honesty, only needs about like 8,000 more words in its title for it to feel really complete. But yeah, I absolutely adored the game. If you've played it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. I love that it kind of ends in this way where you have this very New Hope crew set up, this group of misfits and lost people who now are kind of working together. And I kind of like, I hope they make a follow up to it, but at the same time, if they just do something completely different, not a direct sequel, I'm all over it. So, Jedi Fallen Order, amazing game. If you haven't played it yet, go give it a shot. Yeah, that's my review. Additionally, I read a book. I know I'm talking about book as a VR avatar on an internet TV show. But bear with me here. It was a really good book. The book is called Providence. It's written by an author named Max Berry. He's written a boatload of other things, which I'll probably now look up and actually read. But this was the first of his that I'd gotten around to. And it tells the story of it's Gav. Oh, hey, Gav. So Gav Macca there in chat, for any of you guys who aren't taking part in this, is a good friend of mine. He's what's the word I'm looking for? A bit of a collaborator on this show, though he hasn't done any of the work that I've asked him to recently, Gav. But it's fine. He's also a very good friend of mine. You might know him from YouTube tutorials on Unreal Engine 4, though he goes by the name of Tesla Dev over there. You can also find him at that on Twitter, and I also believe on Instagram. So, free plug for Gav. But yeah, so Providence, Max Berry, science fiction novel. First contact goes horribly, horribly wrong, and cut to the future where we're in war with these aliens that are referred to as salamanders. It's this excellent science fiction story that, like all great science fiction, says a lot about the world right now. It kind of finds this great way of blending the kind of unknowable hard science fiction of authors like Peter Watts, while also channeling a little bit of Joe Haldeman's Forever War, and his sense of why are we fighting this weird, silly war that nobody fully understands. And then too, it blends in a lot of the modern day kind of influencer culture that's going on at the moment, and it's really interesting. And I read the entire book in like, I read 150 pages of it in my first sitting. The book, I had it in my ownership for less than 24 hours before I'd finished reading it. Absolutely wonderful book. I adored the crap out of it. I highly recommend it as well. You can pick it up at any of your local bookstores. And if you don't have a local bookstore, I accidentally hit that, you can pop over to your library, request a copy. I'm just trying to like plug all of the local businesses because especially in times like this, we got to keep those guys afloat. So, yeah, Providence by Max Berry. Excellent book. I can't recommend it enough. I loved it. And yeah, local bookstore, library, all that jazz. So let's get into the news. Going off of our science fiction and kind of craziness, NASA has announced that they are going to be working on a new isolation study. They're looking for applicants to take part in this kind of 8-month studying to test the long-term effects of isolation on human beings in small groups, as well as experimenting with means of helping people not lose their minds while cramped in a box with the same handful of people to simulate going to Mars. The application process is open. You just have to be a United States citizen. Sorry, Gav. Between the ages of 30 and 55. Cool. Still looking good for me. And you must speak fluent Russian because the test is being held in Moscow. I don't speak fluent Russian, so I'm off the list. In fact, I don't speak any Russian, so very far from fluent. Additionally, they also would prefer to have people with advanced degrees and or military service. Either way, sounds pretty cool, except for the being in Moscow part. But yeah, if you fit the bill and all that, and you don't mind being stuck in a room with somebody for 8 months, go pretend to go to Mars. I mean, the idea of it sounds pretty cool. I feel like it's I feel like it's still a bit premature because we don't even really have concrete plans to get back into orbit without Russia's help. I mean, yeah, I know we have the Crew Dragon capsule that's supposedly going to be getting crewed missions up into orbit within the next 1 to 2 years, but that doesn't mean we're really in a position where we're going to be going back to space. So, personal opinion, all that stuff. That's my Elon Musk joke for this week. That I don't believe his Crew Dragon stuff is actually going to work. And hey, let's also remember that his actual Mars rocket keeps imploding, so doesn't really speak too well to the quality of that engineering. Yeah, as I said a couple weeks ago, I just love kind of crapping on Elon Musk. Dude's a little crazy. Like, dude, I'm gonna be honest though, don't get me wrong. I super appreciate all that he's doing for tech. I super appreciate the cars and SpaceX, all that stuff. But the guy's a loony, right? I mean, he's like a modern day Howard Hughes, except without like the adventure. Because like Howard Hughes would at least like fly his own planes. I mean, he wouldn't be sent. I tell you this right now, if Howard Hughes were Elon Musk and he made the Crew Dragon, he'd have been in orbit on that first test flight. That simple. He would have been like, cool, don't trust anybody else to fly this rocket, so I'm going to do it myself. Speaking of completely missing the point and screwing things up horribly, HBO Max has decided to complete and debut the Snyder Cut of Justice League in 2021. Yeah. No idea why. Like, no, that's not entirely accurate. I understand why. People liked Zack Snyder's take on Superman and Batman. I didn't. I thought he didn't understand the characters at all. I think that his whole I think a lot of things about Zack Snyder. I'm very sorry for the tragedy that made him step away from the original cut of the Justice League, because that's really sad, and I don't wish that on I don't wish that on anybody, like quite literally anybody. Nobody should have to deal with the death of a child. But at the same time, it's just we got a chance to see what a more upbeat version of the DC expanded universe would look like. And I thought that was nice because especially characters like Superman are supposed to be these beacons of hope. That's not to say that the Superman that he gave us wasn't a beacon of hope, but it was. His Superman was a very heavy-handed Christ metaphor, who didn't actually seem to care about the people he was trying to save by virtue of the fact that he pretty much murdered everyone he ever tried to stop in commission of a crime that we saw. And that's not good. That's not good at all. And then, of course, you have Batman, who's branding people, and apparently, because people are branded for having been caught by Batman, and when they go to jail, they get killed because apparently, look, there's a lot of lack of consistency in all of this. So yeah, but if you're a fan of Zack Snyder's take on the Justice League and DC characters in general, there will be his cut of the movie coming out next year. Zack Snyder has said this week that what we saw in the original Justice League was only about 1/4 of the work that he did. And we've also kind of gotten an estimate that Warner Brothers is putting an additional $20 to $30 million of work into it to finish various visual effects, and of course to pay the editors to put it all together, distribution rights, and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But Zack Snyder also told us a few years ago that the project was ready to go, and it very clearly wasn't. So 2021, year of the Snyder Cut. Hopefully it's also the year that everything starts getting put back together, but time will tell. What else we got? Oh, we got Fortnite being Fortnite. So Fortnite decided that it would be a great idea to team up with Christopher Nolan of Memento, Batman, all the really cool movies fame, and debut the trailer for his new movie Tenet on Fortnite. I mean, it's a cool idea, but it kind of missed the mark a little bit. I like the idea of using Unreal Engine for not video game things. Clearly, I like the idea of bringing more pop culture directly into Fortnite as opposed to like the kind of roundabout methods of it. Like the very clearly John Wick skin that was in the earlier releases of the game that wasn't John Wick, the John Wick, or probably like the Jim Wick costume would be a good nickname for it. But after watching some videos of the trailer debut on the Party Royale mode, it felt really weird. Like the audience wasn't the type of audience you would expect to see in like a movie trailer release kind of thing. It's just the world of Fortnite is already kind of set up for the audience interaction movies, stuff like The Room, Rocky Horror Picture Show, things like that. Those cult classics where the interactivity between the audience and the film is already kind of there. But Christopher Nolan movies aren't those kinds of movies. They're very much these heady, high concept ideas. Even his Batman movies were more complex than your standard superhero fare. A good example is looking back at 2008. We got Iron Man that year, which is, in my personal opinion, one of the finest superhero movies that's ever been made. And then we also had The Dark Knight, which really did a great job of looking at the difference between heroes and villains and how it's all entirely subjective. But we're left with this movie that's not about time travel, but appears to kind of be about time travel, debuting in front of a bunch of people in Fortnite who are able to throw like party grenades at the screen and floss. So is what it is. But I would love to see where this like kind of movie debut thing goes forward. Because I think that the technology behind it is very interesting. Clearly, I really like the idea of using Unreal for not Unreal things. But I mean, I think you guys get where I'm going. So, A for effort, probably like a B minus or a C plus for execution. So, Yeah. All right, so those are like the big stories out of the way. Time for the lightning round. Try it again. Lightning round. Real world Tom has decided to be messing with me. So, the lightning round. There we go. All right, guys, rules of the lightning round are simple. I'm going to take one breath here in a moment, and I'm going to try and get through all of these little news stories that I didn't think were big enough to actually talk about in any form of depth. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender is on Netflix. Enjoy your next couple of days. Tencent saves System Shock 3 with publishing deal. All praise our new publishing overlord, Timothy. Agent 847 Oliphant joins the Mandalorian for Season 2, wearing Boba Fett's armor. That won't be awkward at all. Samsung is developing a military and government spec S20 with extra encryption and blackout mode. I wonder how long before the FBI asks them for a backdoor into this phone. I'm not gonna make it. Gen Con 2020 has officially been canceled. Don't worry, there'll be an online replacement show starting July 30th. Finally, happy 40th birthday, Pac-Man. You roll like a pixel for 30. I managed it. Whew. Yes, and yes, Gav. I also had that here in my notes, but I forgot to talk about it. Yeah, that was when I was writing that. I thought that wasn't going to be a problem. And then as I was doing it, nah, that was a problem. I blamed the giant box I have on my head. All right, so the last story for today, as I move my monitor again, is the big one, the mission critical, our mission critical story, the main quest of the night, if you will. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the best video game endings of all time. This was brought on by the AV Club, part of the whole Gizmodo line of websites. They posted a big old story about, I think it was the top 15 picks for the best, or some of the best and the greatest video game endings of all time. It was a really good list for the most part. A lot of the games on there I had heard of and had played. Some of them I'd never heard of before, and now I have a list of things to look out for. The big ones, of course, that stuck out for me: Final Fantasy VI. Can't agree with that one more. Excellent game, excellent ending. The Last of Us. I'm not going to ruin that one for anybody. And the original one, not the second one. And keep your spoilers out of chat. But for me personally, that came out at about the same time as another book that was very similar, that ended, that had some very similar themes throughout. And I personally think the book was better. And the sequel for the book, which was actually a prequel, came out and had a very similar ending, but was also better. So, hey, each their own. People really love Last of Us. I only played a couple hours of it. Wasn't my cup of tea. The entirety of the Metal Gear Solid franchise is on this list, with the exception of Metal Gear Solid 5, which doesn't actually end, at least not in a way that Hideo Kojima would call an ending. And I got to give it to him on that, because I'm not going to say that those endings were particularly good, but they were sure as hell memorable. They were some of the weirdest, craziest things that we have seen in video game history. Also on the list, for some weird reason, Mortal Kombat 11. I know I have some friends that are big fans of Mortal Kombat. I know I have a frequent viewer of the channel who worked on Mortal Kombat 11. And I'm going to say, I would say this to their face and not just on a Twitch channel. What? Yeah. Like, yeah. There are, if you don't care about spoilers, you can go on YouTube and find several YouTubers who have pasted up the entirety of the story. It's like about a 2.5 hour watch. You know, it's fun at the very least. I just don't agree whatsoever with this ending being on the top 15 list of all time. especially considering that there were, from just that I could think of immediately off the top of my head, three endings, or three games with amazing endings that didn't end up on that list. Um, First and foremost on this one, because I have to throw this one out there before everybody because everybody already thinks that I'm like some weird shill, is Splinter Cell Conviction. Um, I feel personally that that was a really wonderful game, that went to some really dark and interesting places, that dealt with a lot of themes of what's more important, the idea of justice versus revenge, and honestly, of every game in a Clancy franchise, that was the most Thom Clancy of all of them. Um, Not like the moment to moment gameplay, but the story of it, and then at the end of the game you have this moment where, taking everything from the beginning to that moment, you have that chance to decide for yourself which is more important to you. Is it more important to get revenge, or is it more important to get justice? And I know the choice that I made. I chose justice because I always put my own morality into the characters I play in video games. I can't help it. And it was an excellent ending. Additionally, I appreciate that the way it ended also affected the relationships between some of the characters in Splinter Cell Blacklist, which was also a really good and highly underrated game, in my opinion. But yeah. And then the last one that I have on my list that didn't make it was Halo 3. Um, like, why isn't that on there? I mean, Halo was a system defining game that sold consoles, sold online subscriptions, and then sold consoles and online subscriptions again. It, aside from its relative importance in the medium and the genre as a whole, Halo itself told a very solid and quality narrative through the entire course of its 3 game run. And then on top of that, it's one of just a handful of true epic, at least in a literary sense, not in like the colloquial sense, epic franchises that has ever actually been around. My friend Rob, who I had previously podcasted with, uh, we had talked about how that Halo was one of the best, or was the best, like shooter campaign prior to Titanfall 2 arriving, which had a pretty decent ending, but whatever. But Halo 3 just nailed what it meant to be an epic. An epic, at least in the literary sense, is, oh hey, and speaking of Rob, there he is in the chat. How you doing, Rob? Thank you for actually coming. Rob is a very good friend of mine. He also streams. His channel is right over there. He's probably going to be going live not too horribly long after I finish up with my show. He's probably playing Modern Warfare Zone or whatever it is, the current Call of Duty is that all the kids are playing. Um, but he's a good guy. You should definitely throw him a follow as well, and maybe even think about popping over to his channel afterwards. But yeah, so you have Halo, which sets up this Superman kind of character in the Master Chief, and he alone is capable of fighting the two enemies of humanity, between the Covenant and, oh hey Gav, thank you for the follow. Why weren't you following earlier? uh, Gav, I love you. I can't heart hands because, hold on a second, is that kind of that's close-ish. I need hand animations. um but yeah, so he's the only person that's capable of fighting this two-pronged enemy between the Flood and the Covenant. Um, and we additionally get the introduction in Halo 2 of the Arbiter, another character who is very important and has that connection to the Master Chief as well. But the Arbiter's story isn't this huge. I mean, his story is huge in its own way, don't get me wrong, but his is about saving a people as opposed to saving the galaxy, which is the Master Chief's story. And at the end of it, when Master Chief finally defeats the Flood and Guilty Spark and the Covenant, he is left outside of the galaxy in suspended animation, potential, or at the time we thought, until the end of time, because the goal of an epic character is not just to win the day and beat the bad guys, but it's to fundamentally change their world, or at least the world in which their story is being told. And they don't get to live in the world that replaces it because they are decidedly of the old one. And it's just like, for me, it was like, I knew that at the end of the day, the Chief was going to have to be taken out of play. And I had a feeling that Bungie wasn't going to do the fans dirty by killing the Master Chief. So the ending was brilliant in that they managed to remove him from the board, so to speak, without killing him. This idea that the Master Chief was now out there as like this guardian angel, quietly and observing the galaxy for the rest of time. You know, like, that was a great ending. That was completely destroyed by bringing him back in Halo 4. And it just, kind of sucks in that weird way. But yeah, those are the three endings I personally feel were overlooked. Again, it's all just a completely subjective, personal judgment. That's just the way I feel about it. But those are three excellent endings. I know some people agreed with me, especially on Mass Effect 2. I had a couple people get back to me on Twitter about that. Primarily, everybody also just really kind of dug. Oh, I didn't even talk about Mass Effect 2. Dang. Whatever, I'll talk about it now. Everybody enjoyed the crap out of the suicide mission, the last mission of the game. And I'm not going to lie, that was an amazing mission. I know a lot of people have kind of some weird feelings about the final boss fight, which I get. I disagree with them, but I understand them. But the true excellence of the Mass Effect 2 ending is that it's an inversion of one of the best endings in cinema history. And that movie is The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm going to spoil this because that movie is 40 years old now. And I don't care. So at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, things are looking dark for our heroes. They've lost Han. Luke has lost his hand. He's cut his Jedi training short. Who knows what's going to happen? But it doesn't matter because they have hope. They're sitting there outside of the galaxy, and who cares about the lore ramifications of all of this, looking back in on it. And there's this hope that they have. Whereas in Mass Effect 2, it's very reversed. The good guys have won the day, and they're, like, yeah, rah, rah, victory, all that. But then it cuts to the last shots, and that sense of hope is gone, because very much the big bad of the story is still out there. And not only are they out there, but they're now actively coming in. Also kind of interesting that they are also an extragalactic enemy, but it literally is an inversion of The Empire Strikes Back, and that's freaking brilliant. And that didn't make the list is just crazy to me. Another one that was brought up was the original Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption 2 made the AV Club's list. I haven't played either of those games. I'm not really a big fan of Rockstar's giant sandboxiness. Like, they're good games, but they're just not for me. and I watched a video of the ending of Red Dead Redemption. I feel that without the context of the full game, it doesn't really matter to me. But at the end of the day, especially stuff that literally just goes to the endless cycle of revenge, I'm kind of bored of. But yeah, quick question from chat. Gav, general thoughts on Andromeda. General thoughts on Andromeda, I liked it a lot. It felt very much like the first Mass Effect to me. It wasn't this, it wasn't as well refined as 2 was relevant to 1, but it had that grander scope that 1 had relative to 2. Um, I think it kind of got a bad rap. I think EA definitely screwed the developers on that one by, I mean, I understand the initial delay and pushing it from, what was it, November to March. But when they were pushing that game in March against the Switch launch, Breath of the Wild, and Horizon Zero Dawn, they should have given those developers 6 more months and made a push for September. That simple. That would have given them more time to fix all of the things people were complaining about at the start, and also probably helped boost sales because people weren't trying to spread their gaming buck thin between 3 games in very similar genres. So that's my opinion on Mass Effect Andromeda. Developers got done dirty. A good game didn't get the time that it needed, and it got rushed out the door to compete against games it didn't have a chance against, no matter how good it was. That simple. Um, but yeah, I feel bad too because I have I had friends at that studio who then lost their jobs when that studio got closed because EA made a decision that caused that game to not make as much money as they wanted it to make. And to quote Jim Sterling, there's no way that a game can make all the money, so it was probably going to happen anyway. Yeah, just pontificating and all those things. I've got strong opinions, man. Gav, you know this. We talk. Rob, you know this. We talk. Um, so Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect 2, and then another one that was brought up by a friend of mine was Splinter Cell Blacklist, which I completely forgot about that game until he mentioned it. Not like forgot about the game because it was forgettable, but forgot about it because I play a lot of games now, and I'm at the point now where I pretty much only play games I know I'm going to beat. And if I know I'm going to beat it, I'm generally looking for something that's going to be really good. So I have a tendency to play really good games. And it's really hard when you're only playing really good games to keep your mind full of all the really good games. But he specifically cited that it was a wonderfully acted story with a bunch of very compelling actors, with compelling characters, an excellent villain, really good pacing, really great gameplay, and the end was really terrific. And I got to agree with him on that too. I played that game in one sitting back in 2014, and it was excellent. I live streamed it on the channel. The VOD very likely isn't still there, because I mean, no, yeah, it was 6 years ago now. But yeah, no, that game was excellent, and the way it end, yeah, another game you should probably go play if you've got the time for it and you can find it. I don't know if it, no, it didn't get PS4. Yeah, it didn't get a PS4 and Xbox One version. It came out like right at the end of the life cycle for the 3 and the 360, which was always an unfortunate time to be coming out for a game. So, yeah. What about in chat? Anybody got any great ideas on what are some of the great games of all time with great endings? I know I like to give Rob some crap for this, but he tends not to play games that end. So, yeah. What do you think, Gav? Gav, you've got to have a pretty good idea. I'm pretty positive. You play games. I've seen you do it. We've done it together. We've made games together. No, everybody else in the show, I would just like you to know that OG Vitality, Rob, I give him crap like this all the time. He gives it right back to me, too. Generally, when I'm sitting in his chat, he's getting on my case for talking about Destiny. and then I just do this. That is exactly what I do. Just like that. Doesn't know it's coming. Rob, I'm gonna be honest. I put the fart on the board for you, so I'm really glad you were here today. So yeah. Um. All right. Well, Gav is thinking. Rob is complaining about Destiny. Also had a couple pretty solid endings throughout the course of its many expansions and single player campaigns. Um, Next week will be another interview show. I'm having Liam Twos on the channel. He is an independent video game developer based out of the UK. He's currently launching a video game pitch initiative to to try and boost other independent developers and bring more attention to the projects they're working on. It's called Pitch a Game. Hashtag Pitch a Game. If you look on my Twitter timeline, it's just simple at Thom Clancy. I believe it's one of my most recent tweets. I retweeted what he did. So if you're a game developer that's looking to hopefully get some eyes on there and then also maybe get a little help in tightening up your pitch, God knows I need it. It's definitely something worth your while. We're still working out exactly what time it's going to be, but he is in the UK, so he's going to be. It's going to be earlier in the day. I think we're looking at probably around 4 o'clock Eastern time. So it's going to be like super early. But hey, we're all quarantined. We got nothing better to do. But yeah, that is kind of the long and short of it for there. Gav, how's it coming? How's it coming? Still thinking? Still thinking? What do I think about Crucible? The game, Rob? If you're talking about the game, I haven't played it. I appreciate that Amazon finally got off their lazy butts and got into the video game space that they've been trying to do for the last couple years. And if you're talking about Destiny, which I see you very clearly or not, but I'm still going to talk about it anyway. I don't like the current stance of the meta. I also don't like the idea of metas in general. I like playing the game the way you want to play it. And yeah. But no, I haven't played it. I honestly don't know a single thing about it except that it's a game. I imagine that they made it in their Lumberjack or whatever the heck the name of the engine is. Um, but I'd be interested to check it out. Um, yeah. Can't think of one. Nearly 2 a.m. here. Brain's not working. Uh, Legend of the Cabos. I have no idea what this game is, but I have to find out what it is now. Yeah. All right. So let's see. I've been going now for about 45 minutes or so. Um, for a one-person show, that's probably about the longest any of you guys want to hear from me. So thank you guys very much for coming out and hanging out here at the show. Thank you to everybody who responded to my ask on so I'm looking for here ask on the best video game endings of all time. I still stand by my kind of super subjective analysis of Halo 3. Excellent ending, almost one of a kind. Mass Effect 3 also had a very similar ending, but I'm not opening that can of worms because I think I'm the only person in the universe that likes it. Uh, and yeah, so thanks for coming and joining us one more time. Again, next week we'll have a guest. In the future, we're probably going to work out like a news show and a guest show, probably even in the same week. But for now, we're going to do an every other. Baby steps build up to it. Thank you all again for coming, hanging out, blah, blah, blah. Love you all, especially Gavin Robb, who dealt with my potentially immature and rude jokes this week. And I will see you all next week on another episode of That Thom Clancy Show. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Good night.